When we talk about piracy, we often think of illegal file sharing, torrenting games, movies, or software, all of which are clearly against the law. But there's a deeper layer to this issue that's often overlooked. What does it really mean to own something? And does that change the way we view piracy? Let's take a moment to think about something we all do regularly: buying games, movies, or software. You might walk into a store, purchase a physical copy, or download a game from a digital storefront. You've handed over your money, so in exchange you're supposed to own it, right? Well, not exactly. Sure, you might have the physical disc in your hand, or the digital file on your console or PC, but in most cases you don't really own it in the traditional sense. Take digital games as an example. You purchase a game from a platform like Steam or the PlayStation Store, but you're actually buying a license to use the game, not the game itself. That means you don't have full control over it. You're at the mercy of the platform's terms and conditions, and they can revoke your access at any time, like when PT was removed from the PlayStation Store. If you didn't download it when it was available, it was gone for good. This goes beyond games too. With services like Netflix, Spotify, and even Kindle, you're not buying the content. You're paying for the right to stream or access it. The files are not yours to keep, and the moment those services shut down or alter their terms, you lose access to everything you bought. So here's the question: if you don't actually own what you've paid for, does that change our moral view on piracy? If the content you're buying isn't truly yours, should you be allowed to take it without paying? Now, let's dig deeper into the implications of ownership. As consumers, we've been conditioned to believe that buying something means owning it. When you hand over your hard-earned money, you expect to receive something tangible, or at least something you can use without restrictions. But in the digital age, what you're actually getting is more like a rental agreement with added fees. In a way, your content is still controlled by the publisher, platform, or service provider. This opens up the question: if I don't really own the games, movies, or music I buy, what's stopping me from getting it for free? After all, if the entity that produced the content isn't offering full ownership, does that give the consumer any more leeway to pirate it? Let's take software piracy as an example. Software companies like Adobe, Microsoft, and even game developers often lock content behind expensive subscription models or demand ongoing payments for updates and support. In a way, these companies are selling access rather than ownership. As a result, you're paying to use the software, not to possess it. Many people argue that when the model is based on continuous payments, it creates an environment where piracy seems less like theft and more like an alternative to an unfair system. But here's where things get tricky. Piracy is still illegal. While you can argue that the system is flawed and that you're not truly owning anything, breaking the law still comes with consequences. If piracy were to become widespread as a result of these frustrations, it could ultimately harm the entire industry. Developers, game designers, artists, and creators rely on the revenue generated by their work to fund future projects. If piracy cuts into those profits, it makes it harder for these creators to continue making the things we love. That said, can we really blame people for pirating content when they feel like they've been sold a product that they don't truly own? Does the system itself make piracy an understandable, though still illegal choice? So where does that leave us in terms of piracy being wrong or right? It seems clear that there are two sides to this argument. On one hand, we've got the traditional view that piracy is illegal and creators deserve to be compensated for their work. Without a system that supports creators, innovation and development would grind to a halt, leaving us with fewer options and less quality content in the long run. After all, people work hard to create these games, movies, and software, and taking their work without paying is a direct infringement on their livelihood. But on the other hand, we've got a system where we as consumers aren't really getting what we paid for. In the digital era, when our so-called ownership is often limited by arbitrary licensing agreements, constant subscription fees, and the threat of losing access without warning, it's easy to see why piracy might seem more like a reaction to an unfair system, rather than pure criminal behavior. For many, pirating content feels like an act of rebellion against a broken model, one where companies hold all the power, and the consumer is left with very little control over the content they've paid for. Ultimately, the real question is, how do we balance fairness for creators with fairness for consumers? Piracy is a complicated issue, and while it may not be the right solution, it's clear that there are serious flaws in the way digital ownership is handled today. It might not be as simple as piracy is wrong. Maybe, instead, we need to focus on improving the way we purchase, own, and consume content in the modern world. The answer may lie in a future where creators are compensated fairly, and consumers have more control over the content they've paid for. Until then, it's up to us to navigate this tricky line between respecting the law, supporting the industry, and questioning what ownership really means in the age of digital media.